Good morning. One of the nicest stories in the Bible is about two of Jesus' original disciples, Philip and Nathanael. Philip wanted to introduce his good friend Nathanael to Jesus. And as they approached Jesus, Jesus looked at Nathanael and said, "Behold, a man in whom there is no guile." That's a very precious, very rare, even lovely compliment to give to anybody. A man in whom there is no guile. In other words, a straight shooter, a good egg. What you see is what you get. Someone honest, direct, and true, person of integrity, someone you can count on. David, Campbell, Bigelow. A legend, a gentleman, a beloved dad, wonderful husband, a very proud grandparent. Read the magnificent obituary written about him. Listen carefully to today's tributes and be glad that he was in your life. Here in this old historic church, Mr. Bigelow's presence could be counted on for two things: generosity and a great big beaming smile. Generosity is second nature to the Bigelow family. It is central to their brand in every way. It is who they are and it's how they do business. It almost seems that they might have invented constant comment tea so that all the Bigelow family could sit around the kitchen table, pour a cup, and then write checks to help people. David and Eunice have been especially generous to our church's work in India, taking an abiding interest in the people and in the needs of India, an earnest and heartfelt love of India that shows their true esteem and their extension of their love for the teas of India that bless the Bigelow brand. And that great beaming smile I mentioned, that was David's calling card. Whenever we were together in church or community celebrating family events or Cindy's career or Megan and David's accomplishments. If you were at the visiting hours yesterday, you saw that smile manifested in two beautiful ways. First, all the photos of Bigelow family life featured that smile. And second, Eunice's smile was the mirror image of David's yesterday, lighting up the room when she saw an old friend or a familiar face or a dear loved one, a smile that bonded David and Eunice for 64 years. I'll close my thoughts with a personal expression of gratitude to Cindy and Craig, to David and Megan. Their care for their dad and grandfather was beautiful to behold. Gracious, sacrificial, patient, and thoroughly loving. For many of us here today, at least of a certain age, we can't help but imagine what the last year of our lives might be like, or the last 3 months, or the last 3 weeks, or the last 3 days. Truth is, may we all live the final part of the season of our life immersed in such a depth of love as David did. And so, to David's family, on behalf of everyone here today, may I echo the words of Jesus who said, "You have done a beautiful thing. Well done, good and faithful servants." Shall we turn now in our bulletin to the responsive reading of the 23rd Psalm? We've rewritten it as a part for me as the pastor, and you respond where it says people, and then there's a prayer that we offer together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters.
He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me.
Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over.
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
In the quiet and peace of this memorial service, may we find the peace to be renewed in our hope, strengthened in our faith. May we take from our memories of David a wellspring of joy, remembering him as husband, father, and grandfather, mentor, and friend. For all of his life, for all that we shared, we give thanks. May the same love that now holds him close surround us in this hour. Amen.
Hello again. I got to see a lot of you yesterday, and there were so many familiar faces. Thanks for coming today. If David were here today in the flesh, he'd extend his hand and he would say, "How are you?" Because he cared about you. My name is Craig, and for over a decade, David was like a father to me. David, I love you, were the last words I ever said to him. I had the honor to read hundreds of your sympathy cards, letters, and I had the honor to meet a lot of you yesterday. I believe they would have been your last words to him too. My relationship with him was an unexpected blessing. It really was countless hours, dinners, lunches, and golf. I was never ever to beat him, never, and that's okay. Just the pleasure of time. It's really difficult for me to express. When I think of time spent with Mr. B, what really comes to mind is when you're a kid and you hear the words in the winter, nor'easter. You know, no school the next day. And I knew that my best friend and I were going to go out with all the kids in the neighborhood and we were going to have a ball. We were like the Little Rascals. If you remember the Little Rascals. With Mr. B, you'd always pray that tomorrow would be another snow day. David was like a father and a best friend rolled into one. We had many conversations about many things, but often what he would say to me you have to do difficult things that you're not going to want to do. And I never knew that laying him to rest would be one of them. He shared with me that when he started working at Bigelow Tea nearly 60 years ago, that he really didn't know what he was doing. He said, "I don't have a business degree. I don't have an MBA. The only thing I knew is that I had to do what I thought was right. And that was to produce a quality product, hire quality people that'll do a quality job. And whatever that job was, a mechanic, a packer, blending, a VP, a custodian, I couldn't skimp on quality. I needed to take care of the people because the people make it happen. Mostly, I needed to show my appreciation for them. because this little tea company probably wouldn't survive without them. And the gospel that I'm going to share with you, and it really mirrors Mr. Bigelow's life, Paul needed to explain the cohesiveness of a gathering. He chose the human body as a metaphor that all parts are interconnected, unified, and indispensable. So Paul goes to the metropolis of Corinth, and he's going to spread the good word of Jesus. And things are going good. Great. The churches are thriving, everything is good. He leaves. Shortly after, he receives word. Things aren't going well. People are being selfish. They're being rude. They're just not doing what they should do. So Paul writes the first letter to the Corinthians. In it, he says, there's one body, but it has many parts. But all its parts make up one body. Suppose the foot says to the hand, I'm not a hand, so I don't belong to the body. By saying this, it can't stop being part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, how could it hear? If the whole body were an ear, how could it smell? The eye can't say to the hand, I don't need you. He went on to say, the parts of the body that seem weaker are the ones we can't do without. The parts that we think are less important, we need to treat with special honor. God has placed each part of the body just where he wanted it to be. And he has given no more honor to the parts that didn't have any. Mr. Bigelow didn't have an MBA, but somehow, instinctually, he knew about the parts. Paul's metaphor is really about commitment. It's about love. Love will deny oneself and look out for others. Love compels each person in a gathering, a business, a family, to use their unique gifts to serve and to seek out the well-being of others. My friend, Mr. Bigelow, excelled at that. 60 years ago, when David came to work for Bigelow Tea, and boy did he work. It was a little tea company founded by his mom, Ruth, in her kitchen. And what he felt he didn't know, what he shared with me about, he didn't know what he was doing. He really knew all along. And that was to love you. All of you, after his memorial service yesterday, which was beautiful, it was like an endless procession of gratitude and love for this man. And I realized, after talking to people, you, the number of years of camaraderie that you had with this man. thousands. I was adding them up in my head. Thousands of years. David didn't just create what is now a big tea company. He created a big family. You're interconnected, united, and you're all indispensable. I really do feel that he ingrained in you his core principle, love.
About to sing the last song that I ever sang to my grandfather. I didn't make it through it then. Chance that I make it through now is like very small. I love all of you. I'm not looking at any of you. Because then I will be toast. But, hopefully for him I can actually make it through this time.
When it rains, it pours, but it didn't need
You did it. Before that astonishingly beautiful solo, you heard Craig share a passage from Scripture that so perfectly echoed the philosophy that guided David's life, that profound understanding that each person matters, that love matters. Craig, that was the perfect choice. I have a little piece of Scripture to share with you as well. We've already, in this service, read together the beautiful and encouraging words of the 23rd Psalm. And now I'm going to take you back to the very first of the Psalms, Psalm number 1. Because to my mind, it was clearly written for David Campbell Bigelow, or at least it sure feels like it. Psalm number 1 is also known as the Psalm of a good man, of a good person. And it's clear to me that the person who wrote it 3,000 years ago must have known a David Bigelow, a good man. And the image that I love, the image that the psalm writer grabbed hold of to describe this good person that they knew, is the image of a mighty tree whose roots run deep, who is unshakable. Psalm 1 says this: "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, but whose delight is in God's way. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not ever wither. In all that he does, he prospers. Whose delight is in what is good," it says, "who is like a tree planted by water." Well, friends, that was our David Bigelow, strong and true, rooted, deeply rooted in all that is good, rooted in integrity and kindness and selflessness and service and optimism and in constant hope. A man who knew the true meaning of serving and who lived with that moral compass that comes from truly understanding what is good and what is true and what is loving and what is lasting. He shall be like a tree planted by water, the scripture says, sending out its roots by the stream. That was David Bigelow. The presence today of so many people who have come to honor David makes clear what I am about to say about his life, and it is this: David Campbell Bigelow's life was profoundly important. His life was profoundly important in this world, because those who stand among us as the trees planted by water, they are the ones who are most important to us and to this world. They are the ones who show us what is good and what is true, what it means to live with compassion and care, what it means to be faithful and honest and humble and hopeful. Like a tree planted by water, they are the ones whose roots run deep into all that is honorable and all that is noble. Like a tree planted by water, these are the ones whose strength never fades because they are fed by the waters of grace. They are the ones who never cease to bear fruit, it says, for they are rooted in all that is life-giving. And this was David Bigelow. His strength for living was astonishing. At times it felt that it would be eternal, immortal. His love for life and for the people in his life was constant. His interest in them. He never ceased to bear fruit. Truly, he never stopped growing, rooted as he was. And those like David who are the mighty ones among us, those trees whose roots run deep, well, they are the ones in whose shade we grow, in whose shade we grow. They are the ones who inspire us to live lives of integrity. They are the ones whose witness to goodness leads us to seek that same goodness for ourselves. Their rootedness in honor inspires others too to be grounded in what matters, to choose love and respect and truth. We grow in their shade, these mighty ones. Yes, David Bigelow stood among us as a tree planted by water, and each one of you who shared in this life knows that you were given a gift, an important gift. Listen again to the words of that psalm. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. Its leaf does not wither. It stays evergreen forever. And in the end, that is our greatest comfort. That the life of David Bigelow, a life in which you all shared, a life from which you drew strength, has not come to an end. His life is evergreen, for he is alive, and safe and well and strong, in a place of beauty beyond what we can imagine, where one day, by the grace of a good and loving God, we will all be gathered together again. Let's join our hearts together in prayer. Let us pray. God of love and memory, God of all moments and of this moment, God of laughter and of tears, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for David, a child of your creation, shaped by your hands, breathed into life by your Spirit. Thank you for each moment of blessing that we shared with him, each moment of joy and delight. Thank you for the love he gave and the love he received, all of them reminders of your great love, alive within and around him. Help us now. Help us, kind God, through the journey of grief which each person here is traveling, and most especially, be present on that journey with those for whom this loss is so hard. We ask your tenderest touch on Eunice and Cindy, on David and Mary Kate, on Megan, on Craig, on all his family who cherished him and the friends who walked beside him. God of all love, help us see beyond this created world to that place of welcome where David now lives in light and peace, that place where we will all one day be, and there will be no more tears. We pray this in the name of love as we join our voices together in the words of the Lord's Prayer, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Hi. My name is David Bigelow O'Hara. I'm David Bigelow's grandson. Thank you for coming here today for the celebration of my grandpa's life. It means so much to me and my family that you could all be here with us. And thanks to everyone who put these 2 last days together, especially you, Mom. I know it was a lot of work for you to shoulder. Pop-Pop was and is so proud of you. Today I wanted to share a letter with you all that I wrote to my Pop-Pop in 2016. It never made sense to me that people wait until the funeral to tell their family and friends how much they love them. So I did that 7 years ago when he was turning 90. I ended up writing 4 or 5 of these love letters since then. But when I wrote this first one, I saved it on my computer as what I'll say at Pop-Pop's funeral. I'd hoped to never read it again. Dear Pop-Pop, this past August, I attended a leadership conference at work where we learned about how we can become more inspirational leaders. The session began by each person in the room describing the most inspirational person in their lives. This was a very easy question for me. When it was my turn, I shared with the room that my Pop-Pop was the most inspirational person in my life. I spoke about your patience, your humor, your ability to listen, your humility, your curiosity, your infinite love for learning, your integrity, your appreciation for everyday life and nature, your kindness, your dedication to your family, and so much more. I talked about the letters you write me, the newspaper clippings you send me every week, and how you help me gain a better perspective on the world. I spoke about how you're the definition of a true leader, a great listener with vision and conviction, but always putting people first, and quick to give credit to everyone around you. By the time I finished talking, in which I went a few minutes over a normal amount of time, everyone in the room was smiling. When I was young, the thing I appreciated the most about you was your sense of humor. Whether it was telling me how many gold medals you'd won in the Olympics back in your day, or your hearty laughs as Megan, Aunt Lori, and I messed up our terrible magic tricks in Florida. I always loved and learned from watching you laugh and enjoy life's little moments. I appreciate how you could find humor in any situation, and I've carried this with me throughout my life. It is something that got me through the difficult parts, and I owe a lot of that to you. Now that I'm getting older, I've come to truly cherish your advice and wisdom that you share with me. It started with simple things, like hold the banister and chew your food. But has now evolved into much deeper, more significant pieces of advice. About work, about relationships, about health, about life. I'm so grateful you spent so much time and energy writing me those 2 mini books on business and on marriage. I'll bring them with me for the rest of my life. And I'll cherish them forever. Although I could certainly continue writing about all the different qualities you have that I admire, I can sum it up by telling you that you're my #1 role model. Not a day goes by when I don't think, what would Pop-Pop do? I've never met anyone that only receives genuine praise from each person they've encountered. Every person that knows you speaks about how good of a man you are. Your soft-spoken, kind nature, how you treat each person with respect. If one day I can be regarded in half the way you are by the people around you, I would have lived my life to its fullest. Thank you for being an inspiration to me and for continuing to make the world a better place for everyone around you each and every day, but just being you. Love, David number 2.
That's a tough one to follow. Hi, I'm Monty Crabtree. I retired from Bigelow about 2 years ago after working there for 38 years. After working at the Boise plant as the warehouse operations manager for 10 years, I was approached by Lori Bigelow if I would be interested in coming to work for the tea division as the corporate blending operations manager. Under Lori's leadership, she taught me the true appreciation of creating a perfect blend using the finest quality teas, herbs, spices, and flavors. With this opportunity, I also, besides working closely with Lori, I worked closely with Mr. and Mrs. Bigelow on a daily basis. They also taught me the importance of quality, and this was created by maintaining great relationships with each of your suppliers. As time went on, a working relationship developed, but more importantly, a friendship was forged with the three of them, as well as Cindy, that I will always cherish. I live in Idaho, and when I would travel back to Connecticut, Mr. and Mrs. Bigelow and I would get together and we'd have dinner, just so we could visit. It was something I always looked forward to. The Bigelows have an obvious passion for tea. This was shown through the presentations that Mr. Bigelow would create for each of the plants. When he and Mrs. Bigelow would travel to the plants for the teapot dinners, he would give a presentation on the company, teas, or some aspect of the tea industry to all the employees, plant administration. He would do these presentations to all the shifts, including graveyard. It was important for him to share his knowledge, and I believed he hoped through this education process the others would feel the same passion. The employees looked forward to these presentations. The employees also looked forward to the teapot dinner. This was a very special occasion. This is something that happens after you've been at Bigelow for 7 years. It wasn't just a dinner, it was an opportunity to spend time with the Bigelows. At the end of the night, most employees would make it a point to personally thank the Bigelows for dinner, but more importantly, for having traveled to Boise and spending the evening with them. We all feel such an overwhelming sadness for the loss of Mr. Bigelow. Mr. Bigelow touched a lot of our lives and hearts at one time or another. I know he's with us now, and I hope you can all feel his presence. He was an exceptional person, and I found that the Bigelow name is a reflection of the many qualities he processed. B, Braveheart. I, integrity. G, giving. E, energy. L, leadership. O, optimistic. And last, wisdom. We will miss you. We are all better for having you in our lives, a true gentleman. We will keep you in our hearts, and you will always be with us. The last thing I will say is I was an employee, but I was family, and that's the one thing this company's done for all of us.
I have to go last after everything that's said like that. Thank you very much. My name is John McDonald. My wife Barbara, our very good friends Rita and David Sullivan. We're all from Palm Beach, Florida, year-round residents. And we met the Bigelows, who have their winter residence there, maybe, I'd say around 18 years ago. And it was the worst day of my life. And we met them at different occasions, as months went by. And then one time we started talking, Rita, David, Barbara, myself. And we said that we were willing to let the Bigelows into our group. And so the six of us started going out and having a great time. And as a lot of you know, it just clicked. We were very good friends after a while, the six of us, the Six Musketeers, and we went to affairs, the opera, the symphony, but the most important thing is, where are we going to have dinner tonight? What do you feel like eating tonight? So we did that for 18 years, and we had a hell of a time, and we love you. I didn't think I was going to be like this. But anyway, everybody said it before I got up here, but the bottom line is we had a good run, and it's not over. And again, we all love you. Thank you. That's about all I can say right now. You thought it was all over, didn't you? I was reading an article quite a few months ago, and I said, I'll hold on to this. It seems pretty good. It was said originally by supposedly President Abraham Lincoln. And it says, if you want to test a man's character, give him power. And David Bigelow got the power, and it was tested. And you all know better than I do, because you're part of the family, a lot of you, and everything, and down here. And he just built it up with everybody, with Eunice and the whole family. And every time we go out to dinner, he said, did I ever tell you about Megan or David? I said, oh, what did they tell you now? Tell about how they loved Megan and the song she was singing, and David, how wonderful he was, and I'm going to send him those letters. What do you think of those letters? And I said, well, you did it from the heart. Give them to him. Well, you know, the different generations, I'm this age, he's that age. I said, no. Words are words, they don't change. Give him those words and let him look at them. Goodbye again.
Okay.
everyone. How are you? Thank you so much for coming. Like my son David said, it's just such a joy to have you all here to help us through a very difficult time. You can tell by the tears. This is not easy for any of us. We all think we're going to get up here and survive. And even John, you weren't able to either, right? He's a hard subject. But also to be there to help us celebrate. And that's what I want this to be. That's what I wanted yesterday to be, a celebration. Unfortunately, I have thought about this for a long time. Oh, okay. I fell off. What did I do wrong? Thank you. I can tell Jeanette, who's sitting up there. Hi, Jeanette. I've had a file for almost 10 years about things that I wanted to share. About the most special man. Sorry, Craig. Sorry, David. I love you desperately in my life. So having you here, I can't begin to tell you. So we've traveled so far to get here. St. Louis, Austin, Boise, Kentucky. That'd be Boise, Idaho. I don't know why I do that. But I so appreciate Florida. All of you, everyone, means so much to me, trust me. So I, similar to my son, I don't know if I'll be able to read it, but I wrote a love letter for my dad. I did have the opportunity many times in his long life to pay tribute to him while he was alive, because you're right, David. You don't want to just have someone know how you feel about them after they're gone. So the good news is, and everybody here knows, my father knew how I felt about him. Everybody knew. I had such opportunities for tributes over the years, which makes me feel so good. This particular love letter, unfortunately, he did not get to hear. I too, like David, I will try to do the best I can. But I even brought my own tissues. There might be some nose blowing, and I apologize. I talked to someone yesterday, and they said, whatever you do, don't cry. And I said, well, then whatever you do, don't come. She knows who she is. Dear David, dear Dad, I thought about writing you this letter for a long time. The only problem is I dreaded reading it out loud, because that means you have passed. But I do know you are listening to me right now, and that is for sure. So the first thing I want to say to you is that I hope you know how much you are loved. Not just by me, not just by Mom, not just by Megan and David and Mary, Kate and Craig, and by Flo, but by everyone. Almost everyone who met you fell in love. I often thought about that. And what was your magic formula? Maybe it was how genuine you were when you were listening to people. Maybe it was because of your awesome questions you would ask during your conversations. Maybe it was your humility. Maybe it was your quiet intelligence. Or maybe it was just plain you. Whatever it was, Dad, you were loved. And I know I speak for almost every single person at Bigelow, how much they all loved you. You and Mom truly created the most wonderful family environment at our little tea company. And that's why people that work there often will say to me, this is my company. And they mean it. It is their company. That is the world and the love that you both created. Yes, Daddy, you have left a long wake of love behind you. Over the last year and a half, Craig and I were blessed to have you both, Mom and Dad, both of you, live with us. And I know it wasn't easy for any of us. But to me, it was a gift. I loved our conversations over dinner, on the couch, on the rocking chair, all of them. And I learned so much more about you, especially your childhood. Yes, I knew you were born in Manhattan Hospital in 1926. Your parents were pretty well off. Your mom was an interior designer, pretty successful, worked for families like Gillette and Borden. Your dad had a really good job at McGraw-Hill. You lived in Manhattan until you were 5, and you had an Irish setter named Monks. At 5, you moved to Wilton, where an older couple, Aunt Sue and Uncle Billy, watched you after school until your parents came home late from New York City after their long day at work. I learned how lonely you were as you shared with me you had no friends, and how Uncle Billy was a drinker, and he really wasn't very kind to you at all, knowing how sensitive you are to Daddy. I can't imagine how terrible that must have been. Then in 1935, when you were 9, and in the middle of the Depression, you and your mom took this amazing cruise to Europe. You loved that trip with her, and you talked about it all the time. That's where you taught yourself how to whistle in case you got stuck on a raft in the middle of the ocean and you needed to call a ship to save you. And I remember at dinner not that long ago, I had you share that piercing whistle with Craig, and you still had it. And you still couldn't believe, after 63 years, I didn't know how to whistle. Boy, you loved that trip. But when you came back, you learned your family had rented that home in Wilton, and you were now moved into an inn, 2 rooms in an inn. In Edge Hill Inn, it was the name of it, in Spuyten Duyvil, near the Henry Hudson Bridge. You also learned that your dog Monks had run away. And even though your grandmother went through great lengths and posted up signs on all kinds of trees, you also knew there were no dogs allowed at the inn. To make matters even more challenging for you, Daddy, your mother said to you, "Please don't tell anyone that we live here," making you feel so ashamed. You shared with me how you would wake up in the middle of the night with cold sweats, having panic attacks about knowing what was going to happen to your family next. I mean, think about it, Daddy. You lost their jobs. You were living in 2 rooms in an inn. You weren't allowed to tell anybody. I can't imagine what that must have been like and how scared you were as a young boy. The one good thing was you told me that living in the inn, you had friends for the first time. And after school, you had friends to play with, and then you would run into the inn afterwards with them, and you'd turn on the radio, and you would listen to the Don Winslow show on the radio. And when we had one of our dinners, we turned on YouTube of the Don Winslow radio show, and you were so happy. I could see it bring back all those memories, and that really made me smile. One of my favorite stories you shared was when you were 12 with Gloria Thomas. You were kind of sweet on Gloria. And you thought Gloria was kind of sweet on you. So you were so excited to go to the prom, to meet her at the prom. The problem is, when you got there, her and Chickie Macy were making out on the balcony. That was not good. You went home, You were so upset. You said you yelled and yelled at your parents about it. You remember, you felt bad about how much you yelled at your parents over it. And you never talked to Gloria again. At 13, your mom went up to Avon Old Farm. Avon Old Farm is an all-boys school up in Avon, Connecticut. And my grandmother went up to Mrs. Riddle, the founder, and she talked her into allowing Daddy to go for free. That was pretty impressive, Grandma. Off you went to Avon Old Farm, and you loved it. You were on every single team possible. But your favorite was the Woodsman Club with Vern Priest. Vern Priest. I heard that name so much. You loved the chopping wood, cleaning up the forest, making the food, serving the food. You loved these chores, but you really loved Vern Priest. He meant so much to you, and I think a very important part of your life. I'll never forget, in the years later, when you were being honored at Avon for a Lifetime Achievement Award, we had all gone up, David, Megan, Mary Kate, me, Mom, Tommy, And we learned that you had also received your senior year the Top Student Athlete Award. You were unanimously chosen by the staff and the student body. Top student. Top student. I used to come home with my report cards, and he would take these report cards like he'd never seen anything like it, and the sense of pride like he'd never seen an A before, and he would just be beaming and make me feel so good. He said I was lucky if I got C's. C's? You were the top student and you got into Yale on C's? I think you were a very humble man, David Campbell Bigelow. And then off you went to Yale, where your first roommate was Livingston Kellogg Fairbanks III. What? And that's when he told you the first day that you were in the room together, I can only talk to you when we're in the room. When we're outside, I'm going to pretend like I don't know you. My God. That must have hurt, Daddy. I can see why you said your life up to that point really didn't allow you to build much inner self-confidence. But luckily, while at Yale, you met a wonderful man named Bill Curran, who became your best friend for the next 70 years. Then you were drafted into the war, into the Army. You hadn't even been at Yale for a year yet, and off you went to the University of Pennsylvania to learn Japanese. I think you were part of a special training program. And when you went off to Japan, you had such great stories about that chapter in your life. You loved it, all these great tales. But the one thing you said, thank God, they never needed to use you to interrogate anybody in Japanese because you really didn't even know a word. That story, I believe. Then back to Yale, graduating in 1948. And at that point, you started working for your parents for a few years. But unfortunately, Grandma didn't quite have the wisdom to know how to work with someone so sensitive and thoughtful. I get very disappointed with her when I think about that chapter in your life, Daddy. I know how difficult it was. So then you set off to New York, knocking on door to door to find a job. And you ran across a man named Lou Loft. You love this story. You walked in, he was up on a ladder, and he said to you, do you mind painting? And you said, yes, no, I like painting. I'm good. Never painted before, but I'm sure I'll be good. And he hired you on the spot as his assistant. And that's when you kept sharing with me the lesson, everything matters that you do at your job. Don't rank anything. It all counts. Everything is important in what you do with your job. And after that, you went to Roger Wade's studios. That's where you met Mom. Thank God you met Mom. Thank God. You and Mom were just friends. You went out to lunch with a guy named Don Lothrop, right? Don Lothrop. And that was it, just friends. And one day you were back in the office. And I don't know, she said something that annoyed you, I guess. And you kind of said, kind of sternly, use your imagination. Well, next thing I know, you fell in love. Can someone help me with the connection there? And you were married in 1959. I was born in 1960. Mom convinced Dad to go back to the business. Thank you. And Lori was 7 at the time. And Daddy said, you know, I'd like to move to Westport. I like that town. I think it'll be a nice town to raise the family. And so we moved there, and I have to thank him for that decision because I loved growing up in our town. Looking back, I just have so many amazing memories as your daughter, Daddy. I didn't really even realize how lucky I was. But I always knew you were my foundation, my rock, my cheerleader extraordinaire. Growing up, I never looked at you as someone who even ran a company. Because you were always there for Lori and I. Our dinners at the table, always, every night. Going to Carvel ice cream on Sundays when I would look at you and wait for you to get this novel idea. Hey, anyone gonna go to Carvel's tonight? That'd be me. All our family trips to Puerto Rico, where we would float in these little inexpensive rafts, the four of us, holding hands. And that's when he started calling us the floating Bigalinis. I knew him as a dad that could pack a car better than anybody I've ever seen. I still can think and see in my mind when I went to Boston College, my very first time going up, nerve-wracking. And the car was just filled to the brim. There was no room anywhere. And I came running down the stairs with one more spider plant. And I said, Daddy, Daddy, I have to take this spider plant. As if this was the only thing that was going to make me feel like my room was from my own area, my own home. And he just smiled, he took it gently, and he just went to the car, he moved some things around, and he found a spot for my spider plant. I could see it like it was yesterday. And oh, how you love to take the back roads. The back roads, like it was something novel. I think, Cindy, I'm going to take the back roads to get home. Good idea, Dad. He just would not go on a regular road. I don't know what it was about him. No ways for Daddy. And David, Mary, Kate, and Megan, we can attest in South Carolina, we were trying to get to the airport and we were a little tight. We were all together and we were looking at ways, trying to give him suggestions. That didn't go well, did it? My kids were like this. Or when I was 12, my mom and dad used to love to give one nice gift at the end of Christmas. You know, the regular scarves and shirts. But at the end, we got a little bit of a nicer gift. And they told me to go behind the couch. And there was this yellow chopper. This beautiful yellow chopper bicycle. Probably the prettiest bike I've ever seen in my life. And then he took me outside. And he taught me how to ride the bike. Me falling, getting up, and him staying with me for hours until I finally got it. And he was so proud of me. And I was so proud of myself with a few scratches and bruises along the way. He taught me how to ski. You taught me how to ski, Daddy. You taught me how to drive a stick shift. You were always there, Dad, always. I didn't know anything else. And the same was true for Lori. I know how much you loved her. She was a beautiful girl. And I feel so bad we never had a service for her. She was gifted in so many ways, but especially with her contributions to Bigelow Tea. Daddy, you were so proud of her. But I also knew in her later years, she really did have many challenges that were not easy for any of us to deal with. But no matter what she was going through, you and Mom, you were always there for her. No matter what Lori needed, you were there with your unconditional love. And believe me, Daddy, she knew how blessed she was. She revered you. But I also know how much you questioned yourself when she passed a few years ago. Daddy, you need to hear me. You could have not done anything more than you did. You loved her with all of your heart, and she loved you. And from a business perspective, I also learned so much from you. I had the great pleasure of watching you run Bigelow Tea during my most formative years. Man, did I learn a lot. How not to let money be your master. For greed will change your DNA. How to check your ego at the door, and how to bring humility to the workplace. But the number one rule, take care of the people. Think about them. What do they need? It is a gift to have them work for us. And do not take that for granted. I watched how you walk up to everyone in the company to chat and treated everyone like the family that we were. It seemed perfectly normal to treat everyone like family. I also have some pretty vivid memories of you getting kind of feisty if you thought someone was wrongfully treated. You could get kind of hot, Mr. Bigelow. Don't let that quiet demeanor fool anybody else. I knew what was simmering underneath there, young man. And one of his major rules is you didn't want anyone to be disrespected. Oh, yes, Daddy, I learned so much from you. But treating people fairly and like family, that was lesson number 1. And I work hard every day to carry on your legacy there in a way that I know makes you very proud. You taught me well. I learned about your passion for family. I watched you love and support Mom down to your very core every single day. I watched in awe, but truly, Dad, I have to admit, I'm not as good as you. You took care of her, loved her, and you treated her like a queen. You two are quite a pair, inseparable, both personally and in business. I am not kidding you when I said people used to ask me, did you separate to go to the bathroom? I love the combination you had, but especially in business. You, Daddy, were known as the bubble maker, and Mom was known as the bubble popper. And believe me, we all appreciated her at Bigelow. I love you, Dad, but you had an idea every minute. Mom grounded you. She made you stay a tad more realistic. She was an invaluable other half. And the same, she did her part as your life partner. Hey, she learned how to ski so we could all ski as a family. She learned how to play golf because you love that sport. Man, you had a passion for trying to teach Eunice. Whew. Even if she didn't want to hear another word. You were unrelenting with your newest golf tip. That's because you love the sport so much. The problem was, she took you seriously. I just kind of smiled. And when you told me about your next philosophy, but I think about it and I said, what a fool I was. If I had listened to you more, think about how much better I could have possibly been today, because you were so dang steady and straight. You, Mom, Craig, and I enjoyed a lot of golf together over the last 10 years. Sunday after Sunday, we played 9 holes. And I know how much you looked forward to it, Daddy. Because one time, he didn't think I was going to be able to come back, and he looked at me and he says, you're not going to be home for us to play golf together? And I said, no. I'll get home. We're going to play golf together, I promise. And his whole face changed. His face lit up. He was so happy. And I just realized then how much he loved to play golf with me, as much as I loved to play with him. I remember our last 9 holes, September of 2021. My dad and I, we walked almost all 9 holes. My Mom and Craig drove the carts, looking at us, were we ever going to get in? And I remember looking over at the side as he kept walking. I was so happy. And we were tied. He was 94 years old, for God's sakes. Jesus. And you were so proud. And truth be told, so was I. We truly did enjoy playing golf together, Daddy. Every Sunday, and then Sunday night dinner. I will cherish those rounds that we played for the rest of my life. I also loved how you used to talk about your friends. The ones you went so deep with. Your relationships were so meaningful, especially the ones in Florida. Joe and Sheila Lazar in Chicago, the first 20 years, they went out to dinner 4, 5, 6 nights a week. And then the last 20 years with Rita, Dave, Barbara, and John. Oh my God, did they enjoy getting together with you. The symphonies, the dinners, the conversations, they were priceless. Yes, Dad, you and Mom were both only children, but in my opinion, the 6 of you, you were brothers and sisters. You were the definition of family, and for that I will always appreciate them. And then there was you and Craig. You treated him like a son. Watching the 2 of you together meant the world to me. You guys would chat and chat and chat. About what? I will never know. Actually, I knew everything they said. I listened. Wood, golf, maple syruping, boat making, leadership, politics, investing, business. You named it. You guys truly connected. And of course, the fact that you kept telling me you better not lose him made me wonder who was top on your list. But you kept saying that because you knew how good we were together. You were so happy that I'd found him and he found me. But you were protective of him. That's because you both had a very special bond, the gift of curiosity and a gentle style that connected you both in such a beautiful way. I will sorely miss seeing you at the kitchen table talking. And Daddy, I know, so does Craig. And then there was you as Grandpa, the one and only Pop. Once again, you were always there. From the day the kids were born to the day they graduated from college, and Megan from graduate school. You didn't miss a beat, just like when I was growing up. We were blessed to spend so much time together. And all those Sunday night dinners, or you helping Mom make the meatballs in that certain way, they had to be rolled a certain size, and Megan and David saying, can this holiday be another spaghetti dinner? Or you playing Crash with those little cars on the wood floor with David for hours, with Mom saying you really shouldn't do it, it's not good for you, and you would suffer the next day, but that night you'd come back and on the wood floor you would be. Or all Megan's school concerts that when she would start to sing, two of you would start crying. Or the soccer games, the school plays, the talent shows, whatever. You both just wanted any chance you could be with my kids. You were such an integral part of their lives growing up. You were always there. And I think about what a blessing that was, both for me and my kids. Always to have you around. Yes, you were an amazing Pop. I know this last year wasn't easy for you, Daddy. A lot of trips to Yale Hospital, you and I. But I cherished each one of them. That alone time in the car, just to be with you and me. Nobody else. And they always started the same way. We'd get in the car and start driving. And Daddy would say to me, Cindy, I like that car. What is it? I said, it's an Audi, Dad. He goes, well, it drives kind of smooth. Do you like it? No, Dad, I don't like it at all. And he'd say, oh yeah, I forgot. And we would both laugh. Every single time. And then we'd get to the hospital, and you would be pushing the wheelchair, okay? And I would be telling everyone your age, literally, in the elevators, the entry area. I was just so proud of you. And then we would go to floor, blood work on one floor, and all the stuff that you do when you go to Yale. And all the ladies behind the counters would be flirtatiously saying, hello, Mr. Bigelow. And I'd be in the background going, hi, I'm his daughter, Cindy. Those trips were just you and me. And I truly love them. And all our times, whether those trips are in the house or in the car, whatever else we were doing, you were always so graceful and appreciative. But I knew, Daddy, you were sad. You felt so bad about possibly inconveniencing me. But I told you I would not have it any other way, and I meant it. You've always been there for me. How could I have it any other way? And having you that close to me for the last year and a half, it was the greatest gift of my life. I cannot believe all the time I got to spend with you. You deserve to be surrounded by love, feel 100% safe, find joy wherever you could. I wanted to hear every story you wanted to share. I wanted to walk around the driveway together and just show you the kindness and support you'd showed me since I was born. And all the visitors we had. Susie, Annie, Pete, Karen, Bob, Pam, Bill, Pam W., Donna and Dan, Dr. Connors, and from work, Renee, Bob Kelly, Ron, Elaine, Cindy, Jeanette, Bob Hendrick. When he drove you home, thank you, Bob Hendrick, from the hospital the one time I couldn't. You're a godsend. And so many phone calls, always for noon sharp. Right, Mr. Kelly? Noon sharp. Everyone was so generous, so kind. Cookies, flowers, cakes, meals, cards. Yes, we created the most amazing family over that last year. You, Mom, Craig, myself, amazing Flo, who I could talk about forever, who took such good care of my dad, my mom, of me, of everyone. Whenever there was a need, there was Flo. Or Craig's son, Cooper, who was there all the time, helping whenever needed. And his wife, Gina, and 3 beautiful grandkids, Spencer, Mason, and Rosie. You brought my father so much joy with those children. He loved it. And he loved you. And of course, sweet Teresa, who's been in our life for a long time. I think you cried every time you walked in the house, every week. And then there was Helen, Luba, and Nadia, 3 of the most beautiful women that were there to make sure my father was safe, cared for, fed. Oh, you did such a beautiful job. My God. You worked tirelessly. We had a house filled with love. And we can't forget Beans and Gracie, my little puppies, who were not by your side after you moved in. Yes, you were surrounded by love, Daddy, lots and lots and lots, because that's what you bring out in people. So, Dad, as my letter comes to an end, I want to finish with a thank you. Thank you for everything you did for me, for teaching me that everyone is equal, including myself, for being there for me during my most difficult times, and for all the times you stayed on the phone with me when I was driving by myself at night late, and you wanted to make sure that I would get home safe. Hours and hours on the phone until I got there. For believing I was the best daughter, mother, and leader. And for always making me feel so special. Thank you for your never-ending support, for teaching me the value of humility and kindness, hard work, and selfless love. I could not have imagined a better role model, mentor, or dad. I love you with all my heart, and I always will. Love forever and always, your loving daughter, Cindy.
Through mine and the prayer, I might just be going for like a triple crown here. I'm crying, but yeah, work out this one. I'm trying to hold my breath. Let it stay this way. Can't let this moment end. You set off a dream in me, getting louder now. Can you hear it echoing? Take my hand. Will you share this with me? 'Cause darling, without you, all the shine of 1,000 spotlights, all the stars we steal from
behalf of the family, how grateful we are to all of you for being here. After my words of benediction, you are warmly invited to join the family at Aspetuck Valley Country Club. You are all very welcome for a time of reception and sharing stories and extending the love that we have felt in this place, in this time. My benediction is so simple. Let's try to live like David. Let's try to live with the integrity and the love and the honor and the humility that we have celebrated today. And may that love be with us all now and forevermore. Amen.